educational institutions for a first phase which would allow final year students who are writing examinations to go get some teaching and prepare for the examination. I just want to give a quick background and then I would invite the Honorable Minister to do his presentation. You will recall that on Sunday night, His Excellency the President gave 10th update to the Republic on our response program against COVID-19. And again, to clear it up, contrary to some of the reports that we have lifted the ban on restrictions generally, we have not done that. The President announced the easing of some restrictions, religious gatherings, education, and a couple of other areas. And throughout this week, the ministers responsible for those sectors will join us with the details of what it means to ease some restrictions in those specific areas. And as I mentioned last night, we did religious affairs. This morning, we're going to talk education. The Honorable Minister for Education, the Honorable Matthew Poku Prempeh, is going to join me shortly. And when he's done, he will provide answers to questions. He is in the company of a number of lieutenants from the Ghana Education Service, from NACAB and many other places. I'll introduce them to you as we go along. So I will shortly invite the Honorable Minister for Education to join me. He celebrated his 52nd birthday a few weeks ago, though he didn't invite to the party. Minister.
He wants to remind me how old he is. Still in the youth bracket. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the press fraternity. Like the Honorable Minister for Information has said, His Excellency the President spoke, and the lieutenants in the various ministries must put flesh to some of the issues that the Presidency has directed. This morning's presentation will be in 3 phases. Some few issues to do with pre-tertiary education, some issues to do with tertiary education, and actually reopening of our institutions. The area of pre-tertiary education, precisely Ghana Education Service. Since the year 2016, when this government assumed office, government has recruited teaching and non-teaching staff, including this year, what we will do, as much as 93,724 human beings, teachers, non-teachers, have been recruited by this government in the area of employment for Ghana Education Service. We have the breakdown in 2017, a total of over 32,000. In 2018, nearly 9,000. 2019, nearly 22,000. And this year, we will recruit about 27,000. Total of 93,724 that has been hired and will be hired by the end of this year. To support teachers, this government came to meet a policy of 3 months pay policy, that no matter when you're recruited and how long you have worked, you'll be paid only 3 months. This policy was dropped by this government. And I can say that all teachers recruited last year have been put on the payroll. And for those who had served for more than 3 months, some had served 6 months, all their salaries, arrears have been paid by His Excellency President's government. Also, this year, Ghana Education Service and the unions agreed and introduced a new promotional exam because we want to facilitate and do away with the tendency that somebody gets promoted and 3 years he has not been put on his scale. All, apart from the few that is left for June, all teachers who were promoted and has been released and their promotion letters have been sent have been put on the new scale and have been paid their allowances. Certainly, government is working to improve on the systems of working to do away with teachers always in confrontation with government about arrears. Government, because of the continuous professional development, the licensing exams for new teachers, has instituted a new allowance for teachers and non-teachers called the Teacher Professional Allowance. That will give every teacher 1,200 Ghana cedis, and for non-teaching staff 600 cedis for continuous professional development. Also, government has approved critical support to school members who have been left out for the last 8 years. We have heard much about the pre-tertiary education, that the listening government has listened to the unions and have deleted from the pre-tertiary education bill the union's most vociferous concern to do with decentralization. So the bill would go ahead with some union reforms still, but those parts that deal with decentralization have been dropped from the bill. In the area of tertiary education, to date, financial clearance has been given to over 6,178 staff to be recruited into our tertiary system. Almost every university that requires a financial clearance has been giving financial clearance. Also, the government has agreed to give post-retired lecturers contracts if you are a professorial grade up to the age of 70, and if you're non-professorial up to the age of 65. For all academic staff in the universities who are willing to serve and whose services are needed by the universities, government has approved a grant in being given contracts. Also, since the institution book and research allowance, which became an issue for the last election, that it was going to be cancelled in favor of a tertiary refund bill. Government has not only restored the book and research allowance, the research grant component has been increased by 200% from 500 to 1,500 cedis. Also, in addition, government has placed before the Parliament of Ghana, Ghana National Research Fund Bill, to bring in more investments and funds to support research in this country. I think everybody must have heard about the public university bill. And everybody would also acknowledge that this is the first time in this country that a university bill has been extensively discussed. All the better for that. Government has nothing to hide in advocacy for a public university bill. In fact, on June 14, 2019, the Ghana Tertiary Education Policy, the first of its kind, was launched on the premises of the University of Ghana. And it is that policy which had a committee, so Professor Clifford Nibo Itego as chair, that brought together Ghana Tertiary Education Policy, a former Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana. That policy is what fashioned out the public university bill. Government would like to acknowledge the role of UTAG in making bill a better bill than had been originally envisaged. We will continue to work with UTAG and other interested stakeholders to make the bill worthwhile for this country. But we should also acknowledge that in 2012, all 38 colleges of education under His Excellency John Evans Atta Mills were brought under a One Colleges of Education Act. In 2016, under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, all technical universities were brought under one act. One act does not mean a destruction of the autonomous nature of our universities or academic freedom. In fact, for the first time in this country, academic freedom is going to be enshrined in the law. And we will thank the University Teachers Association of Ghana for even improving what government had envisaged. And we welcome suggestions Parliament has requested for memorandum, and people should send their memorandum to make the bill a better bill. I would like to say that those wanting to speak about them should start from the genesis of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission policy paper and see why government has gone the way it wants to go. Thank you. Then that issue why we are here is about the reopening of schools. His Excellency, the President, did direct that the educational institutions must start reopening from the 15th of June. We must reopen still with the social distancing and hygiene protocols in place. We must reopen with final year students, meaning those students in any institutions which have their final exams. So if you go to some institutions, there will be people ready to write a certificate for NVTI. If you go to some institutions, there will be some people wanting to write their final examination or were preparing for their final examination of a NAPT exam. So it is those classes that government intends reopening schools for to complete their years. When you come into the Ghana Education Service, those classes would include junior high school students who are about writing their BEC. It would include senior high school students who were just about starting their SSCE exams. And final year university students who are about completing their studies. Yesterday, around 4 p.m., we had a long discussion with all the vice chancellors as to how to roll their reopening out of public universities. The opening up of the universities that will start on the 15th of March, 15th of June 2020 is for the tertiary institutions. All tertiary institutions can open from the 15th of June. And I mean final year students. In private and public institutions can make arrangements and start going into school from 15th of June. They can have academic work, lectures and revisions for 6 weeks and write their final exams. This is to forestall an incident where a student will come up and say, where I live, and some of us live at EASING, where I live, there was no internet and I don't even hear the announcement of the universities, so I could not submit my assignments and I could not do anything. We give them the chance to come to school to complete. Then there is a subsect, a group, who are foreign students. All the universities are already deploying virtual systems, and foreigners are participating. If we've discussed it with the vice chancellors, if there's a few students who escaped the lockdown because our calculation such that almost all the foreign students were kept on the campuses because the lockdown, they couldn't leave. But if one or two were able to leave, we have requested for their passport details to be forwarded to us through their vice chancellors and National Council for Tertiary Education, so that if they can fly back, the immigration would open the borders for them to come. But when they do come, they'll be quarantined for 2 weeks before they will be allowed to mix and complete the academic work. Any school that will be reopening, any educational institution, and I'm saying educational institutions because from the 15th, all educational institutions that have these final exams type of sets are allowed to open, are not necessarily in the Ministry of Education. So there are other institutions outside the Ministry of Education which have training institutions and educational institutions. Our last check, these institutions were over 400. There were all the military training academies, all the Ghana Police Service training schools, all the Immigration Service training schools, all the customs Ghana Revenue Agency training schools. That is a category that is not under the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Transport has a regional maritime university that is not under the Ministry of Education per se, and it has the Ghana Technology Training Center as well. The Ministry of Aviation has the Aviation Training Group. The Ministry of Fisheries has a Fisheries College. The Ministry of Local Government has the CVTIs. The Ministry of Gender has the Social Welfare Schools. The Ministry of Employment and Labor has the OICs and MVTIs and whatnot. And almost every institution that has a training facility is allowed to open from 15th. The government has decided that all these institutions, one, should be fumigated against the COVID for the schools reopen. And that is why we have a phased approach to opening the schools. We are starting from the tertiary and non-Ministry of Education and training institutions. The universities have provided most of these things for themselves. Those who are having problems working through the National Council for Tertiary Education, government is going to support them with face masks and spraying of all these institutions. Also, the Ministry of Health, through the Ghana Health Service, has collaborated extensively with the Ministry of Ghana Education Service and Ministry of Information to come up with a program of sensitized school leaders to ensure that these hygiene, sanitation, and social distancing protocols are maintained in educational facilities. That is also going to be rolled out. There is going to be a special campaign to ensure that students go back to school, especially the JSS level, that the girl child is not left behind, that we are going to make sure that the school rules are known, and those children who don't report to school, we go back and find out why they are not reporting to get them back to school. There's going to be an aggressive campaign. When schools reopen, the schools will not be available for religious activities. When schools do reopen, the schools will not be available for religious activities. And it's simple. We don't want too many interactions that can bring in and take out if we perish their thought. If it so happen, we can contact trace who must have brought or come to the school with this virus we have to deal with. So we want to keep it slim and make sure that only students and their lecturers or teachers are in school. When the junior schools, senior schools do open, there will be no visitors allowed for the period that they are in school. Parents cannot go and visit their kids for that period. And the junior high school is going to operate a less total school day so that playground activities would not be permitted. Assemblies would not be permitted. The kids will start school at 9 a.m. and by 1 they should be done and go to school. Breaks will be had in the class. The students will rest between lectures, 45 minutes. They will have a rest for 15 minutes before another, and a maximum of 4 lectures a day, and they can go to school. Like I said, no mass gathering, and all class sizes are going to be linked to ensure the social distancing protocols. We do know that averaging the senior high school max class about 50. So we want to maintain classes not more than 25. And in the junior high school, not more than 30. Ghana Health Service, working with Education Service, has mapped schools to health facilities or public health specialists, so that if a child is unwell, that child should be isolated and the specific public health official or authority or institution notified for the necessary tests and things to be done. This would also allow us, even if there is an incident in the school, to be able to isolate quarantine, and contact trace the necessary people that we have to do. That senior high schools will reopen on the 22nd, and all day students in boarding schools will be accepted as boys. All day students in boarding schools. That means schools that are operating as boarding schools as well. Those day students would have accepted as boarders. For pure day schools, there will be enhanced protocols to look after the children. We are not going to provide buses for them because the health experts tell us that the bus is too cluttered a space for these kids, and it's better for them even when they walk to school and things like that. But we would ensure that the necessary things are done to prevent the spread of virus in the schools. Senior high schools would open on the 22nd. There will be no visitors allowed. They will be there for academic work and revision for 6 weeks and do their West Africa Examination Council, the Ghana exams, that we understand will take 5 weeks. The junior high schools will reopen on the 29th, and they will be in school for 11 weeks and have their exam on the 12th week to ensure that they finish the academic year. For the senior high schools, the gold track second year students who had about 6 weeks to finish the first semester work will be allowed also to be on campus to finish the first semester work. Like we said, there will be no mass gatherings. So dining hall is going to be operated in batches. Everything to ensure distancing and social and hygiene protocols that we said. There will be no sports during that period. Of course, students' main reason for going is to go to study for their exams. And we said for the junior high schools, there will be no outside breaks apart from nature calls. There will be no outside breaks. We expect the school will start at 9. We expect the children to eat before they get to the classroom, and they can have their water or their snack with them as well. And when they get into the classroom, they'll have breaks between the courses. It starts at 9 and it ends at 1 p.m. And children do go home. We have displayed on the screens the opening plan, starting from the 15th for the universities and tertiary institutions and non-Ministry of Education institutions. Then the 22nd, the senior high schools as the gold track students. Then 29th, junior high schools and their exams as well. In due course, studying how the virus is behaving, studying how open the final year students, the virus would behave. Then we'll come back to Ghanaians with the reopening dates, continuing students. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, thank you for that presentation. Colleagues, we're going to delve straight into the questions associated with this presentation this morning. So like we do always, if you have questions, take a first batch of 3. Can I ask my team to set up a microphone? Yes. So we'll take a first batch of 3 questions. 1, 2. If I have a lady, I'll take, so that we have some gender balance in this. I don't find a lady. There are 2. Is there a third question? Yes, Star FM. So yes, first 3.
Good morning.
Morning. Opoku kasa den kawa ni nti oye.
Bajo FM Opoku Samo. We free Kingdom FM. Bajo first thing here me bra wife is me musa question ma and kakra. Your friend enu Mary. Okay, teacher no more better the Form 3 final year students no SHS no. Sorry, GHS for no. So busa say also no would they be classified say front line workers this time around local school now.
The question then say SHS final EHS need say would they be classified as what?
Say almost front line workers and
I say classify frontline workers.
Okay, so
they are classified frontline health workers. And there's a specific definition for it. To pacho bisa question ni yeni into me wow.
Almost this time around omekono. Edia nhihye na ho so sabria interactive with students.
The question then the teacher for now is there any extra incentive? That is the actual question.
That's the question.
Okay, the question is teacher for now is there any special arrangement for the teachers who are going to teach the final students? Okay. Okay, that's it. But colleagues, I think some questions now say general, so that it's not about to be specific. A general question. Yes, sir.
I'm from the ICAG.
You are from the
ICAG.
If you can give us a full meaning. I'm not sure it's everybody who knows.
Accountants Ghana.
Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana. Yes, go ahead, sir.
And we started preparing students for examination before the lockdown.
You started, if you come closer to me.
We started preparing students for the examination before the lockdown. We are examining body. And per our timetable, we should have had examination in May, first week in May. With the easing of the restrictions, we plan having that in July. Our students are both in this country, Liberia and the Gambia. And they're asking if we are able to put in place all the safety protocols, can we organize examination?
Minister, I said you loud and clear. Please take a seat. Minister, perhaps while you are that, you may want to reiterate the broader category of institutions that are not senior high school or tertiary. You have done at some of the other levels. I'll come to you shortly. I'll take a third question. Yes, sir.
All right, my name is Eric Mo and I work with Star FM. Honorable, there's a concern that's come from some of the teachers, particularly now. They're asking whether there will be general testing for students if schools should reopen. They are asking for the provision of thermometer guns, among other things. So the question is that are such provisions going to be made whilst we're preparing to reopen schools? And then for the senior high schools, there's a concern that's come that for the pantries and the matrons that operate, a lot of them go back home and come back before they come and cook for the student and all of that. Is there going to be specific testing for these individuals who don't stay in the school, go back into the communities? Because the minister says that even day students are going to be housed to ensure that they don't go back.
So what are the arrangements for the teaching and non-teaching staff that are not resident on campus?
Campus as well.
Thank you. Minister, the first three questions, if you join me up here and take them, we'll take a batch later.
Thank you. In all that we are doing, we work closely with the experts to direct us as to the best resolution for some of these issues. All schools are going to be reopened, and we must understand that there are workers who have been working throughout this period to keep us where we are, to generate government revenue, to even pay those who are not even working in this period. In other places, salaries are being cut for this same period. So the definition of frontline workers, the frontline workers, health workers, is the definition the committee team will tell you. There are those who are dealing with patients directly, not those who are dealing with general citizenry. So there's a difference. In all that we are doing, we have not left the unions. There have been stakeholders who have been consulted, their inputs have been received, and they've been factored into it. This notion of testing, I'll leave the health workers to come and explain better. But a test today does not mean an infected person tomorrow. A test, negative test in the morning, this morning, does not mean a negative test for the same person in the evening. And so, yes, we did agree with unions, and it was explained by the COVID team expert. Daily testing has not been implemented anywhere in the world. Even the White House West Wing people, some don't go through even daily testing. So daily testing is not the issue. It's being able, if there is an incident, isolate, to contact trace, and to test and to deal with those citizens. And that is what the Ghana has done so well that our maps are different from other nations' maps. So the issue of NAT, if you have followed NAT carefully, NAT has moved on, and they started with no school should be opened. They came to present their 19-point proposal. Discussions have been had, agreements have been reached, and where we are, and we will continue. Not all teachers stay on campus. It's not only pantry staff. Even teachers who are teaching the kids directly for the 4 hours they will be in school, or 6 hours. Not all of them stay in school. Even in senior high schools, there are a sizable number of teachers, even in university, who stay outside campus and come. But I always tell people to draw their mind. They should be smart about the COVID. You maintain all your social protocols. You work as a teacher. Your wife works as a yam seller in the market. Who is going to give the COVID to who? And send it to the school or take it out of the school? Or the junior high school student coming from home, coming to school, is he the one bringing it to the teacher, or is the teacher? So we don't have to work like that. We have to work according to the science and the experts. That fear should not be what drives us. The data, it should be what drives us. And the data is saying that if you can keep the social distances, if you can get the face masks to wear, if you can have the Veronica test to wash your hands with soap, or you can have the sanitizer to sanitize your hands, and you can keep that distance of 1 meter protocol in this country, you are safe to interact. If the class is not going to be more than 100, in our classes it's 25 or 30, you are safe to interact. You are safe to do private weddings if they are not more than 50, so more than 100. So those are the sensibilities we are bringing into the schools. And that is why not all schools are being reopened. It's only the final year students to finish their exams. And I say that it is the final exam years. It's the final exam years. Borders remain closed. So if you can bring your students, you claim you have students in Liberia. Is there a flight from Liberia? And I carefully explained. So right in Liberia, and so it shouldn't be a problem for you. It shouldn't be a problem for you. But if you are going to write exams, those protocols must be observed. The kids, senior high schools and the junior high schools will be writing BEC and WASI. Why? Because if you look at an examination hall, even before COVID, they had social distances. Because during exam, some necks grew astronomically in length for exams. So they did bring in the social protocols. So we would respect those social protocols. And like I said, it's for really the final examination classes. Some are writing certificates, some are writing all other courses. And please, all students are going to be provided a set of face masks, a set of 3. And the schools are going to be sprayed of COVID. And then the Veronica buckets and sanitizers will be provided. There's a special team, Ghana Health Service, Ghana Education Service, Ministry of Information, police, military, under the office of the senior minister, working on that issue. So they will deal with that. Thank you.
We're going to take a second batch of 3. 1, 2. I'll come to you later. Let me go to the gentleman at the back. 3. So 1, 2, 3. Yes, sir. Please step up.
Yeah, my name is Festus Longmati. I am with the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. I want to find out what the Ministry of Education government is doing to support the Ghana Education Service to ensure that education on the safe protocols are put in a simple format for children with special education needs so that these children are not left out.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Joshua Smith. My question is, in relation to the fumation exercise, we realize that the president says the Ministry of Education, together with the heads of the private schools and the public schools, should ensure that it's being done. But here, how is the ministry going to ensure that they monitor to ensure that most of the schools are held so that the students will not find themselves one-to-one?
So what is the ministry mechanism for monitoring the disinfection of schools?
And then a verification to this. WASI is an exam that is being done by most of the West African countries. But there's a case where Ghanaian students are going to school to go and prepare and then to find out from the ministry, how are the students going to write these exams when the other countries are not allowing their students to go into the school to go and participate in this?
Fair question. You have two questions. I'll take your final question.
Thank you. My name is Larry Odo from the Colleges of Education Weekly Journal. I want to ask the Honourable Minister, the final crop of diploma student teachers in colleges of education in their final years. I don't know whether they're going to fall under the university European plan. And then my second question is, student teachers in colleges of education are paid a monthly stipend when they're on campus. But for the sake of COVID, they've been home for some time now and still in virtual lessons. Most of them are crying for their monthly stipends. Would government pay them in this period? Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see some hands at the back to take a final batch of questions? One, so that we can box the Honourable Minister. He has to attend to Parliament this morning. So is there a final batch? One. Is there a final batch? One, two. Are there questions? Madam, please come up. Are there any other questions? So this will be our final two, and then Honourable Minister will respond to that. We wrap up. Yes, sir.
My name is John Elliott. I want to know what will happen to final year students who are not allowed into the country as a result of their borders closed. What are the measures the ministry has in place for them?
But I thought that question was... It was answered a few minutes ago.
Okay, all right.
Okay, do you have a question?
No problem.
Okay, that question was answered a few minutes ago. Madam, we'll give you the final word.
Thank you. My name is Macy Thompson, Joy News. The minister made mention that on the Public Universities Bill, contrary concerns that the freedom of the universities will be curtailed, he said it would rather be enshrined. I want him to clarify on that bit. Also, some contact tracers are saying that they haven't been paid for a while now. I want to know what the arrangements are. And then...
No, that question is not for education. We'll take it, note it, and then when our from health join us, for the subsequent briefings, we'll respond to that. Some contact tracers say they haven't been paid.
Yes.
Which ones are these? Is there a specific area they are coming from?
No, general.
Okay, so maybe the question is, what's the status of payment for contact tracers?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Mariasi, we'll take that under advisement and then we'll get a response from you. Minister, so once you put it all together, then we'll be fine.
Ghana National Education Concern Coalition or Campaign Coalition. The Director General is sitting next to you. The Director General for Ghana Education Service is sitting next to you and very close to the Chairman of Council and the Deputy. In fact, the Deputy Director General for Access Quality is sitting behind you as well. I think it is not the ministry coming here to speak. It is the work that has been done by the implementing agencies. The Ghana Education Service, the National Council of Tertiary Education, the universities, Ghana Health Service, and all other stakeholder unions. The meetings are not publicized. It doesn't mean they haven't happened. But the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition have given us bills for special schools. Okay. This is just to say that the work is ongoing and all stakeholders are participating. They operate the schools. And if the schools are not safe to open, I'm not sure they would open the schools. The safety of the vulnerable is even more paramount. When we say we are going to do aggressive school re-entry campaigns, especially for the vulnerable, to make sure that they are not left behind. So that is all an implementation policy they are going to do. And I think if we are not supporting them, we would not hear. And they know that it has even been escalated to a committee under the senior minister to ensure that the implementation is followed through. And they met yesterday, and today they are meeting as well to ensure that everything, including making sure that the institutions are speak, the face masks are given, the Veronica buckets, and the sanitizers, and soap, and whatnot. So there's a team working. Monitoring. We should be each keeper. COVID is one of the few diseases where my skin depends upon your actions. And somebody's safety depends upon my actions. Like I said previously on this podium, if I don't move, you don't get the virus if I have it. So we should be others keeper in this time. Church services are being gradually opened. Mosques, churches. It's not about government monitoring. It's about we all monitoring and making sure that the church next door to your house, if they are not following the protocols, you either have to speak to the pastor, speak to the authorities to come to the church to visit them. The staff of the Ministry of Education is less than 100. We cannot be everywhere. But we hope that the policies that the experts have put together are sensible enough for everybody to follow. And that is why they will do a sensitization program of school leaders and school heads to ensure that everybody understands what we are unfolding. There will be leaflets and publicity campaigns to ensure that. But we have to understand that somebody's misaction or somebody flouting is a danger to all of us here. If you have a fever, don't go to school. We expect no parent to send child to school when the child is unwell. If we can all do our bits, I think we can kill this virus as quickly as possible. Examination. WASI. Somebody asked the question. When you go to some West African countries, they have their national exam. In fact, Ghana had a national exam plus the WASI till 2014 or 2012 there. We have the SSCE and we have the West Africa Exams Council. We have discussed elaborately with the Ghana West Africa Examination Council, and they are doing a Ghana-specific exam because the other countries are not operating. The diploma students. I know that your allowances are being processed, and the Executive Secretary of NCT and is here, and Chief Director of the Ministry. If you have the evidence that they can show you letters that requirement has moved from the Ministry of Education to the Ministry of Finance for processing. It is not given every month. The allowances are not given every month. It is meant for a semester. So they are given for the 4 months that the semester occurs. So there's a maximum amount of money you can claim in a semester. So if it is given as championing and they stay for a longer time, extras won't be given because they are giving for a period. And that answers the stipend. The final year diploma students are certificate students that have to go to school. So the NCT will work it out with. In fact, this afternoon I had a meeting with the colleges of education in my office, like I had with the vice chancellor. So we will roll it out nicely. There was something about final year from Joy FM. I never understood it. There's a question you asked about final year. I said, and I'll say it again, so that everybody hears clearly. The first time ever in the history of this country that a Public University Act or a University Act has included sessions on academic freedom is what is in the Public University Bill. Never in the history of this country. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, I want a big thank you for making time to be with us this evening and to respond to the queries that came up, and also to present to us, more important, details of what it means to ease restrictions for final years who have exams to write in academic institutions. Colleagues, more time would allow us